The credit card statement showed $4,287. I blinked, read the number again. Last month, $2,340. The month before, $2,180. Something was wrong. I flipped to the itemized charges. Grocery store, gas station, then Serenity Heights Luxury Spa, $340. Below it, Serenity Heights Luxury Spa, $340. And again, Serenity Heights Luxury Spa, $380. My coffee cup hit the counter. My husband had never been to a spa in his life. Drop your name and where you're watching from in the comments. I randomly choose from subscribers to feature your name as a character in my stories. Subscribe so you don't miss out. Can you forgive what this husband did? Using his wife's credit card for an affair at a luxury spa? After you finish, share your honest feelings in the comments. My name is Pauline Hartwell, 46 years old, and that Thursday morning in March changed everything. I grabbed my laptop and started scrolling backwards through the months. February, Serenity Heights Spa, 4 charges, $1,260. January, 5 charges, $1,400. December, 3 charges, $980. My hands were shaking now. The charges had started in late September, right when my husband Keith announced his quote, new business strategy. Right when the Tuesday and Thursday client meetings began. I did the math. $12,000. My money, my credit card, my retirement savings. He kissed my cheek, quick and distracted. Don't wait up, sweetheart. The endearment felt hollow, perfunctory, nothing like the warmth it used to carry. I sat with that credit card statement for a full hour after he left, cross-referencing dates against the calendar on my phone. Every single Tuesday and Thursday for the past 3 months, Serenity Heights Spa appeared on our charges, sometimes accompanied by restaurant bills from places I'd never heard of, sometimes by hotel charges in the middle of the afternoon when Keith claimed to be in client meetings. The pattern was too consistent, too deliberate. My 15 years of pharmaceutical sales had taught me that patterns don't lie, numbers don't lie, and when someone's story doesn't match the documentation, trust the documentation every single time. I grabbed my keys, hands moving on autopilot, brain still trying to process what my gut already knew. Charlotte's upscale district gleamed, with that particular polish of new money trying desperately to look like old money and almost succeeding. Serenity Heights Luxury Spa occupied a converted Victorian mansion in the heart of Myers Park, where old money met new money and both pretended they'd always belonged. All white columns and beveled glass windows that probably cost more than most people's cars. The kind of neighborhood where a small coffee ran $8 and nobody blinked, where luxury was so normalized it became invisible. I'd driven past these streets hundreds of times when I was still working, too busy closing deals and managing my team to notice the price tags on everything. Now my husband was spending my retirement money here, twice a week, for 3 solid months, and I didn't even know why. I pulled into a parking spot across the street, engine still running, telling myself I was being paranoid and hating myself for even thinking it. Keith wouldn't actually. We'd had rough patches before, every marriage did, but he wouldn't truly. Then I saw him through the tall front windows, and the world tilted sideways. He was wearing a bathrobe, white and plush, with the spa's logo embroidered on the breast pocket in elegant script. Sitting in what looked like a waiting area, crystal wine glass in hand, laughing at something with his head thrown back in genuine amusement. Beside him, close enough that their shoulders touched with casual intimacy, sat a woman I'd never seen before in my life. She was beautiful in that expensive, carefully maintained way that requires both money and time. 40-something, blonde highlights that cost more than I used to spend on groceries in a month, wearing a matching white robe that revealed tanned, toned legs crossed elegantly at the ankle. Keith said something and she threw her head back laughing, her hand landing on his knee, with the familiarity of habit, fingers lingering there like they belonged. My vision blurred at the edges, hands gripping the steering wheel so hard, my knuckles turned white and my joints started aching. I sat there, frozen, watching my husband lean in to whisper something in another woman's ear, watching her smile and trail her fingers down his forearm with practiced ease. A spa employee appeared in the doorway, and they both stood with the synchronized movements of people who'd done this dance many times before, following the employee deeper into the building without a single glance backward. The retirement money I'd sacrificed my entire career to preserve, the credit card in my name that he'd been using to fund this betrayal. Every Tuesday and Thursday while I sat in our sunroom, managing our dwindling finances, and actually believing his lies about business meetings and difficult clients. I drove home in a fog of rage, so cold and clear, it felt like the opposite of anger, like some purified form of fury that had burned away all the messy emotions and left only crystalline clarity behind. Keith came home at 7 that evening, freshly showered, and smelling of expensive soap I recognized from hotel bathrooms, that particular lavender scent that costs $40 per tiny bottle. "How was your meeting?" I asked from the kitchen, chopping vegetables for dinner, my voice perfectly level and professional. "Good, really good," he said, kissing the top of my head while I worked, the gesture so casual it made me want to scream. "I think this client might actually pan out this time, could be the breakthrough we've been waiting for." "That's wonderful, honey," I said, and smiled, and served him pot roast while my mind cataloged every single lie he'd told me in the past 3 months, filing them away with the same methodical precision I used to use for contract negotiations. That night, after Keith went to bed, I sat in my sunroom and pulled up our credit card statements going back a full 6 months. Serenity Heights Spa, $12,000 total, give or take a few hundred. I downloaded every statement, saved them to a password-protected folder on my laptop that Keith never accessed because he'd never been interested in the actual management of our money, only in spending it. Then I went through the spa charges line by line, examining each description with the attention to detail that used to make me excellent at catching billing errors in pharmaceutical contracts until I found exactly what I needed. Couples massage package for Kay Hartwell and Jay Reeves, $340. Jillian Reeves. The name meant nothing to me, but my fingers were already typing it into Google before my conscious mind caught up. First result, Jillian Reeves, wellness coach, owner of Serenity Heights Luxury Spa. Her website loaded with a soft chime, all white backgrounds and serene blue accents designed to evoke peace and tranquility. Ironic, given what I was feeling. A professional photo dominated the homepage. The woman from the spa, younger in this shot but unmistakably her, doing some complicated yoga pose on a beach at sunset. Blonde hair, perfectly windswept, smile radiating wellness and inner peace. Jillian Reeves, certified wellness coach and holistic health practitioner. I clicked through to her About page, skimming past the testimonials about her holistic approach to health and relationship wellness. That phrase made my stomach turn until I hit her bio. Jillian grew up in Charlotte and earned her business degree from UNC Chapel Hill in 2004, where she discovered her passion for wellness and holistic living. 2004. Keith graduated from UNC in 2004 with a business degree. My chair scraped backward as I stood, crossing to our bedroom closet on autopilot, pulling down the box of Keith's college memorabilia that I hadn't looked at in probably a decade. Yearbooks, programs, faded photos, all the detritus of a life I'd never been part of. I found his senior yearbook, flipped to the index with shaking hands. Reeves Jillian, pages 47, 89, 156. Page 47 showed the business school social committee, a group photo of 12 students in business casual. There, third from the left, arms slung around a younger version of the woman from the website, Keith Hartwell, grinning at the camera like he owned the world. They weren't just standing next to each other in some casual group arrangement. His arm wrapped around her shoulders possessively, her hand rested on his chest with familiar ease, both of them looking at the camera with the unself-conscious confidence of 22-year-olds who thought they had all the time in the world. I flipped to page 89, pulse hammering in my ears. Smaller group photo this time, just 6 people holding a trophy. Keith and Jillian front and center, his hand on her waist, her head tilted toward his shoulder. Caption: Intramural volleyball champions celebrate their undefeated season. Page 156 was worse. A candid shot from what looked like a party. Keith and Jillian very close together, heads tilted toward each other, laughing at some private joke, the kind of intimacy you can't fake for a camera. I sat on our bedroom floor, surrounded by evidence of a relationship I'd never known existed, and felt something fundamental shift inside my chest. His college girlfriend. He was having an affair with his college girlfriend, the one he'd never mentioned in 16 years of marriage. Using my money to rekindle whatever they'd had back when they were 22 and stupid and thought love was enough. In the back of my closet, tucked in my jewelry box next to my grandmother's ring, I found the letter Keith had written me for our 10th anniversary. His handwriting, careful and deliberate on expensive cream-colored paper. Pauline, 10 years with you, the best decade of my life. You're my rock. I couldn't do this without you. Here's to the next 10, and the 10 after that. Forever yours, Keith. I used to read that letter on bad days, when I felt invisible or wondered if I had made a mistake leaving my career, when the weight of financial responsibility felt crushing. That letter had reminded me why I'd chosen this life, why I'd believed in us. Forever yours. The words felt like mockery now, like a promise he'd never intended to keep. I put the letter back in the box and closed it with a soft click that sounded final. Then I went back to my laptop and started making calls. Rachel Donovan answered on the second ring, voice warm with surprise. Pauline? It's been months since we talked. How are you? I need to meet you for lunch tomorrow, I said, bypassing pleasantries because my voice might crack if I tried to make small talk. And I need a favor, the kind that involves a really good divorce lawyer. Silence on the other end of the line. Then Rachel's voice shifted from friendly to laser-focused. What kind of favor are we talking about here? The kind where my husband has been spending $12,000 of my money over 3 months to have an affair with his college ex-girlfriend at her luxury spa. More silence, then a sharp intake of breath. I'll text you a restaurant address. Tomorrow at noon. And Pauline? Yeah? Wear something that makes you feel powerful, because we're going to destroy him. Rachel had been my colleague at the pharmaceutical company, one of the few people who'd understood why I'd left, even though she'd thought I was making a terrible mistake. She'd risen to regional sales manager since my resignation, still sharp as a scalpel, still connected to everyone who mattered in our industry and half the people who mattered in Charlotte's professional networks. When I told her everything over salads at a downtown bistro, she didn't interrupt once, just listened with the focused intensity of someone cataloging evidence. That absolute bastard, she said when I finished, her fork clattering against her plate hard enough to make nearby diners glance over. Using your money to screw his college girlfriend while you manage his non-existent business. She leaned forward, voice dropping. How long has this been going on that you can prove? 3 months in credit card charges, possibly longer if they were being more careful before. And you want to what exactly? Confront him? Leave him? Take him to the cleaners? I met her eyes across the table, and something must have shown in my face because Rachel's expression shifted to something between admiration and concern. I want to destroy him, I said quietly. I want him to understand exactly what he threw away. I want everyone who knows us to know what he did, and I want to walk away with every single thing that's mine. Rachel smiled then, slow and dangerous, the expression of a woman who'd clawed her way to the top of pharmaceutical sales and knew exactly how to play hardball. Now that I can absolutely help with. We started with surveillance, because Rachel insisted we needed photographic evidence beyond credit card statements. The next Tuesday, Keith announced another business meeting, with the same careful attention to his appearance that I'd started recognizing as a pattern. Rachel and I followed him in her car, staying 3 vehicles back like amateur detectives, playing a game that didn't feel like a game at all, my hands clenched in my lap, while my heart hammered against my ribs. He drove straight to Serenity Heights Spa without a single detour, pulled into the parking lot like he owned the place. We watched from Rachel's car as Jillian came out to meet him, and what happened next made my stomach drop. She kissed him, long and lingering and completely comfortable, her hands cupping his face with the familiarity of habit, of routine, of something that had been going on far longer than 3 months. I lifted my phone with shaking hands and started taking pictures, trying to keep the camera steady. Keep shooting, Rachel murmured beside me, her own phone out and recording video. We need everything. Timestamps, location, their faces, the whole thing. Keith and Jillian walked into the spa hand in hand, his arm around her waist, her head tilted onto his shoulder like they'd done this 1,000 times. I photographed the building, the sign with its elegant script, the luxury cars in the parking lot, the credit card statement on my phone showing every single charge to this location. Now what? I asked when they disappeared inside, my voice sounding hollow in my own ears. Now we dig deeper, Rachel said, pulling out her own phone. I know someone at the state health department who owes me a favor from when I got his sister's prescription approved through our oncology patient assistance program. She was already typing a message. Let me see what we can find out about Jillian's business practices. That evening, Keith came home smelling of lavender oil and lies, whistling under his breath like he didn't have a care in the world. I smiled at him over dinner, asked about his day with genuine-sounding interest, laughed at his jokes about difficult clients who didn't exist. Inside, I was building a case with the methodical precision of 15 years in pharmaceutical sales, where every claim needed documentation and every promise required proof in triplicate. Rachel called me 2 days later, voice tight with barely suppressed excitement. Your instincts were right about Jillian's business. What did you find? Her wellness coaching certifications might not be quite as legitimate as she advertises on her website. Looks like she's claiming credentials from programs that don't actually exist. Rachel paused for effect. And those relationship renewal retreats for couples she offers? She's providing couples therapy services without a licensed therapist on staff, which is a direct violation of North Carolina state health codes. I felt my lips curve into something that probably didn't qualify as a smile. What happens if someone files a formal complaint? The licensing board would have to investigate, could shut her down for months while they conduct their review, and the negative publicity alone would devastate her business in a neighborhood where reputation is everything. Don't file anything yet, I said. I want everything to happen at once, want him to watch it all fall apart simultaneously. The divorce lawyer Rachel recommended was Jennifer Klein, 50 years old with sharp eyes, and the kind of competence that comes from handling Charlotte's messiest divorces for 2 solid decades. She reviewed my evidence, credit card statements, photographs, timeline of Keith's deception, with the expression of someone reading a particularly easy exam. Mrs. Hartwell, I'm going to be very direct with you, she said, leaning back in her leather chair. You're in an extraordinarily strong position here. How strong are we talking? The house is in your name only, correct? Yes, I bought it before we got married and never added his name to the deed. Retirement accounts? Mine? From my previous job, he's not listed as anything except beneficiary. Credit cards? My name, he just has an authorized user card on my account. Jennifer made a note on her legal pad. North Carolina is an equitable distribution state, which means he'd normally be entitled to a fair share of marital assets, but given his provable infidelity and demonstrable financial misconduct, using marital funds for an extramarital affair, I can argue for a settlement heavily weighted in your favor. She looked up, meeting my eyes. The real question is, what do you want out of this divorce? I want to keep the house, my retirement money, and every dollar in our accounts, I said. And I want him to understand exactly what he threw away when he decided to spend my money on his ex-girlfriend. Jennifer smiled, the expression of a lawyer who'd just been handed an easy win. Then let's build you an airtight case that he can't possibly fight. I spent the next week gathering evidence with the thoroughness that had made me an excellent regional sales director. Every credit card statement, going back 12 full months, printed and organized in a 3-ring binder with color-coded tabs. Every photograph from our surveillance, time-stamped and cross-referenced with corresponding credit card charges on a spreadsheet. A detailed timeline showing Keith's pattern of deception, Tuesday and Thursday meetings that coincided perfectly with spa charges, restaurants, hotels. I verified the house deed through the county's online property records, confirming my name alone appeared on the title. I logged into our retirement accounts, checking that my sole ownership was properly documented. I changed the passwords on our bank accounts, our investment accounts, everything that bore my name and my name only. Keith had access to nothing except through me, and he didn't even realize it. Rachel came over one evening while Keith was at another, business meeting. Found me in my sunroom surrounded by organized evidence. The health department contact came through, she said, settling into the white wicker chair across from my desk. Jillian's spa is definitely under review for compliance issues. Nothing that would shut her down immediately, but enough to make her very nervous about any additional scrutiny or formal complaints. Perfect, I said, making a note in my timeline. Pauline. Rachel's voice went soft, careful. Once you start this, there's no going back, no changing your mind halfway through. I thought about the letter in my jewelry box, about 16 years of marriage, about 6 years of sacrificed career. I've never been more sure of anything in my life. The plan solidified over the next few days. I would cancel Keith's authorized user card the morning of his next spa visit, then show up at Serenity Heights myself to watch his credit card get declined in front of Jillian and anyone else who happened to be there. Public humiliation, in the place where he'd been publicly betraying me, using my money to do it. Jennifer would have divorce papers ready to serve immediately afterward. Rachel's contact would file the formal complaint about Jillian's licensing violations the same day. Everything at once, all his comfortable lies collapsing simultaneously. The next Tuesday morning arrived with perfect spring weather. The kind of bright, clear day that felt like a gift from a universe that occasionally pays attention. Keith dressed with extra care, showering twice and trying on 3 different shirts before settling on the blue one that brought out his eyes. "Bake a client meeting today," he said, checking his reflection in the hallway mirror for the 4th time. "Might be gone most of the afternoon. Don't want to rush such an important conversation." "Good luck, sweetheart," I said, kissing his cheek and catching that expensive cologne again. "I hope you get everything you deserve." The moment his car disappeared down our street, I called the credit card company. "I need to cancel the authorized user card for Keith Hartwell, effective immediately." "May I ask the reason for the cancellation, Mrs. Hartwell?" The operator's voice stayed professionally neutral. "Unauthorized use," I said, and it wasn't even a lie. "I'll process that right away. It should be effective within the hour." "Make it effective now," I said. "Please." One moment. Hold music. 30 seconds that felt like 30 years. "Done, Mrs. Hartwell. The authorized user card has been deactivated and all charging privileges removed." "Thank you," I said, surprised by how steady my voice sounded. "You've been very helpful." I dressed carefully after that call. Navy blue sheath dress that I used to wear to close major pharmaceutical contracts, my good pearls that had belonged to my grandmother, heels that added 3 inches and made me feel powerful. I looked at myself in the bedroom mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. 6 years ago, I'd been confident, in control of my professional life, commanding respect in rooms full of people who could smell weakness. Somewhere along the way, I'd lost that woman, trying to be the perfect, supportive wife. Today, I was taking her back. I drove to Serenity Heights Spa and parked in the lot, hands steady on the wheel. The building looked even more expensive in afternoon light, all that carefully maintained Victorian elegance, funded partly by my retirement money. I walked through the front doors into a reception area that smelled of eucalyptus and privilege, marble floors so polished I could see my reflection. The receptionist looked up with a professional smile that faltered slightly when she saw my expression. "Good afternoon. Do you have an appointment?" "I'm here to see my husband, Keith Hartwell," I said, pulling out my driver's license and the credit card Keith had been using. "I believe he's in the couple's massage suite with Ms. Reeves." The smile disappeared entirely. "I'm not sure I can just—" "This is my credit card," I said, laying it on her desk with a soft click. "The one he's been using for the past 3 months to pay for services here. $12,000 worth of services." I leaned forward slightly. "I'd like to speak with him now, please." The receptionist's eyes went wide, her hand reaching for the phone. Behind her, a door opened and a woman in a white coat appeared, manager, based on the name tag. "Is there a problem?" "Mrs. Hartwell is here to see her husband," the receptionist said, voice tight with barely concealed panic. The manager's expression shifted through several emotions before settling on something between sympathy and alarm. "Perhaps we could discuss this situation in my office." "I don't want your office," I said, keeping my voice level and professional. "I want my husband, and I want to see him right now." The manager hesitated for a long moment, clearly calculating the potential for a scene, then nodded. "Please follow me." We walked down a hallway lined with doors, each one presumably hiding someone's expensive relaxation, the eucalyptus scent growing stronger as we moved deeper into the building. The manager stopped at a door marked Serenity Suite in elegant script and knocked softly. "Ms. Reeves? There's someone here who needs to see Mr. Hartwell." "We're in the middle of a session," Jillian's voice called out, irritated and imperious. "It can wait until we're finished." I don't think it can, the manager said, and opened the door. The room was dim, lit by candles that probably cost more per hour than I used to make in a day. Keith and Jillian lay on side-by-side massage tables, white robes draped artfully over them, crystal wine glasses on the table between them catching the candlelight. They weren't being massaged, weren't doing anything except lying there holding hands across the space between the tables, looking at each other with the lazy contentment of people who thought they'd gotten away with something. The door opened and light spilled in, harsh and revealing. Keith's head turned toward us, irritation on his face that shifted to pure horror in the space between one heartbeat and the next. Pauline? He sat up so fast his wine glass tipped over, red wine spreading across white sheets like blood. What are you doing here? How did I find out? I asked, stepping fully into the room. Credit card statements, Keith. You weren't exactly subtle about it. I looked at Jillian for the first time, up close. Really looked at her. She was beautiful in person, I had to give her that, but there was something calculating in her eyes as she clutched her robe closed, something predatory that had nothing to do with wellness or holistic health. Mrs. Hartwell, she said, voice dripping false warmth and concern. I think there's been some kind of misunderstanding here. No misunderstanding, I said. You're having an affair with my husband. You've been having an affair with my husband for at least 3 months, and you've both been using my credit card to fund it. Keith scrambled off the massage table, nearly tripping over his robe in his haste. Pauline, please, let's talk about this at home, not here. Why? I asked. So you can lie to me in private instead of public? So I don't embarrass you in front of your girlfriend? I pulled out my phone, showing him the screen with our credit card charges displayed in neat rows. $12,000. Keith, you spent $12,000 of my money on your ex-girlfriend. Jillian's face went pale, her carefully maintained composure cracking. Ex-girlfriend? She looked at Keith with dawning realization and something that might have been genuine hurt. You told me you were separated. You said your marriage was over, that you were just waiting for the right time to file for divorce. Don't, I said to her, cutting through the act. Don't pretend you didn't know. Your charges go back 3 months, and we've been married 16 years. I turned my attention back to Keith. Every massage, every bottle of wine, every romantic hotel room, all paid for by your wife. The spa manager cleared her throat behind me. Perhaps we should take this conversation somewhere more private. Call your billing department, I suggested. Because Mr. Hartwell is about to try to pay for today's session, and his credit card is going to be declined. Keith's face went from red to white in an instant. What did you do? I canceled your card, I said, and felt a surge of satisfaction at the panic in his eyes. This morning, right after you left for your important client meeting, I looked at Jillian. It's my card, my name on the account, my money that's been funding your little reunion, and I decided I'm done paying for my husband's affair. By now, other spa clients had gathered in the hallway, drawn by raised voices in a place usually devoted to hushed tranquility. Perfect. Let them see what happened when you took someone's sacrifice and turned it into your playground. Keith found his voice finally, desperation making it crack and rise. Pauline, please, we can work this out. It doesn't have to be like this. It's exactly like this, I said. And my lawyer agrees. Jennifer Klein. You'll be hearing from her very soon. I turned to leave, and Keith grabbed my arm with more force than necessary. 16 years, Pauline. 16 years of marriage. You're going to throw that away over one mistake? I looked down at his hand on my arm, then back at his face. I'm not throwing anything away, Keith. You already did that. I pulled my arm free, stepping back. Every Tuesday and Thursday for 3 months, $12,000 of my retirement money, the career I gave up because you asked me to, 6 years of supporting your failures while you planned this behind my back. My voice stayed level, professional, the same tone I'd used in hospital boardrooms. You threw it all away. I'm just making it official. Keith's face crumpled, actual tears forming in his eyes. What do you want from me? An apology? I'm sorry. I'll end it right now. I'll do whatever you want. Just please don't. I want a divorce, I said, loud enough that every person in that hallway heard it clearly. I want you out of my house by the end of the week. It's my house, Keith, my name on the deed. I looked at Jillian one last time. By the way, the state health department is very interested in reviewing your licensing compliance and those relationship renewal retreats you offer without proper certification. Then I walked out into the afternoon sunlight, leaving Keith in his bathrobe in the middle of a luxury spa funded by my money, and got into my car. My hands were shaking, trembling so hard I could barely get the key in the ignition. My heart pounded so violently, I thought it might actually break through my ribs. But I'd done it, actually done it, taken back my power in the most public way possible. I drove home to our house, my house, the house in my name only, and changed the locks before Keith could get there. His belongings went into boxes on the front lawn, every piece of clothing and college memorabilia and expensive cologne that I'd never bought him. A note taped to the door directed him to Jennifer Klein's office for the divorce papers. He called my phone 17 times. I didn't answer once, just watched the calls come in and felt nothing except relief. 3 months later, the divorce was finalized in a conference room that smelled of leather and old paper. Keith got nothing because there was nothing for him to get. The house was mine, the retirement account was mine, the savings were mine. North Carolina's equitable distribution law meant he could have argued for alimony based on his lack of income. But given the photographic evidence of his affair and the documented financial misconduct, Jennifer had convinced him that fighting would only make things exponentially worse. He signed everything with shaking hands, wouldn't even meet my eyes. Jillian's spa closed 2 months after my visit, doors locked with a notice from the state health department taped to the window. Turned out Rachel's contact had found multiple, serious compliance issues beyond what we'd initially suspected. Last I heard through mutual acquaintances, Jillian was working as a yoga instructor at a discount gym in South Carolina, reputation destroyed in the only market where she'd had any credibility. Keith was living in a studio apartment in a neighborhood he used to call depressing, working as a sales associate at an electronics store. Rachel called me 6 months after the divorce became final, voice bright with opportunity. "We have an opening for a senior pharmaceutical consultant. Interested?" I looked around my sunroom, at the laptop where I'd spent 6 years managing Keith's failures, at the empty space where his coffee mug used to sit every morning, at the life I'd built that was finally mine again. "When can I start?" The job paid $95,000 a year, not the $120 I'd been making before, but close enough, and more importantly, it was mine. My work, my achievement, my future, built on my own terms. On my first day back, I wore the navy dress I'd worn to the spa that day, my good pearls, the armor of a woman who'd fought her way back to herself and won. Rachel met me at the door with coffee and a smile. "Welcome back, we've missed having you around here." 6 months after that, I sat in my sunroom on a Saturday morning, drinking coffee and reviewing investment accounts that had started growing again, now that I was the only one with access. Spring bulbs were coming up in the garden I'd neglected for years while I was busy supporting Keith's dreams. Daffodils I'd planted so long ago, I'd forgotten they were there, yellow and bright against the dark soil. Turns out some things survive even when you think they're gone forever, just waiting for the right conditions to bloom again. My phone buzzed with a text from Rachel. "Lunch next week? New client I want you to meet. Big hospital contract." I looked out the window at my garden, my house, my life that was finally mine. 16 years of marriage, 6 years of sacrificed career, all of it leading to this moment of absolute clarity. Looking back, I wish I'd understood one thing earlier. Financial independence in marriage isn't about distrust. It's about protecting yourself when trust breaks. If your spouse insists on joint accounts because you're married, that's when you need to ask why. Because love doesn't require you to surrender control of your own money. I spent 6 years supporting someone else's dreams while mine gathered dust, and that was my choice. But it doesn't have to be yours. Know what's in your name, check those credit card statements every month, and remember that no is a complete sentence that needs no explanation or justification. What would you do if you were in my position? Could you forgive someone who used your money to betray you, or would you walk away? Let me know in the comments. If this story touched your heart or made you think, please like and subscribe. Your support helps me keep sharing these stories. I texted Rachel back, "Lunch sounds perfect." Then I opened my laptop, the screen reflecting in my coffee cup, and got back to work. This was my life now, my garden that I tended, my coffee that I enjoyed, my work that fulfilled me, my future that I controlled. No one else's, just mine, exactly the way it should be.